begin with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda, which you have in front of you, moved by Bruce. Seconded by Angie. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. All right. We have a number of action items. To begin with, rescheduling of June regular school board meeting from the 19th, which is a special day, to the next day, the 20th. And we have anybody? There is no presenter. Obviously, the reason for that is June 19th, and it's an official holiday. And so, let's have a motion on the table.
So moved.
Moved by Bruce to move the meeting to Tuesday, the 20th. Seconded by Gary. Now, questions, discussions?
What's it gonna mean? Is it the contractual implication for some staff?
I believe so. Ron, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll be, thank you, Director Schindler. We'll be referencing that tonight in a report of what we're doing for that. But through the state statute now with Governor Walz, June 19th is a state holiday.
Any other questions? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we remove our meeting from the 19th and schedule it on the 20th. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Looks like the ATTPS annual report. Yes, thank you. It's Kathy.
Hi, I am Kathy Bauman, and I am a sixth grade science teacher at Southwest and also the district coordinator for our ATPPS program. So just here to give you the year in review. So just what is ATPPS? Just some reminders here. It stands for Alternative Teacher Performance Pay System, and this is our 19th year in participation. And our purposes have to do with instructional practices, increasing student achievement, providing professional development, and encouraging collaboration. There's some components that are within there. Site goals, student achievement goals. This is something that teachers do in an individual growth plan that we work on throughout the school year to attain some of these. Career advancement, of course. Observations are a part of that. Those are requirements, and then also job-embedded staff development.
By observation, that means teachers observing other teachers.
Teachers observing other teachers. I have that kind of broken down in a later slide, and then also evaluations, and then our instructional coaches coming in and doing observations and helping teachers.
It's a good opportunity for one teacher to observe the effective practices of another teacher.
Yes.
Learn from each other, right?
Yep. Those are a part of our informal observations too. Yep. So our leadership positions consist of myself, the district coordinator, 8 coordinators or instructional coaches, and then 41 instructional team leaders. These are ones at the building level that are the leaders for either like content areas, possibly grade level areas, when we meet on Wednesdays for PLC meetings. Oh, I hit the wrong button, I apologize. So PLC meetings are professional learning communities, and we meet every Wednesday for 45 minutes. There are a total of 34 Wednesdays that we meet. We discuss things in terms of standards, aligning our curriculum, could be instruction, assessments, identify our priority standards for the year within our content areas, revisit using our learning targets. It might be doing some rewriting, but making sure that they align with our state standards. I'll let you look through the rest of those. We use that student data to be able to kind of help us decide, you know, is there reteaching that's needed? What can we do to either help those students that need intervention, or even students that are kind of already at those, have met those standards, and what is a way that we can kind of enhance their learning further. Any questions here?
Yeah, as I recall, I may be wrong, but PLCs were in place before this ATTPS. And so in a lot of instances, the current ATTPS program merged with things that were already in place.
Yep, and these are all required by MDE regardless of QComp or not. Like, I worked in a district where we did not have QComp, but they're still the same requirements, but you still have to meet those for the state purposes. All right. A lot of our work is focused around these 4 critical questions. The 4 critical questions are also a part of MDE requirements as well, but what do we want students to learn? How will we know when they've learned it? How will we respond when learning has not occurred? And how will we respond when learning has already happened? So we have kind of that extra question, I guess. We always say like a +1. And this is our professional growth goal that we base on the HRS Marzano elements, or our instructional model. And I can show you what that looks like in just a second here. So kind of going back to that observation and evaluation piece, these are the requirements. So we have 2 peer reviews, and this is observation or coaching. This is where an instructional coach may come in. It could also include if a teacher is in cycle, meaning that there's an admin that would come in and do evaluations. They always have a pre and a post conference as a part of that. Most teachers will be working through like coaching cycles within this same idea with instructional coaches, even if they're not in cycle, meaning that every 3 years you have to have an evaluation by an administrator if you are probationary. If you're probationary, it's an automatic 3 evaluations by an administrator that's required. And then, just like Mr. Scar was talking about, 3 informal observations are required. Those are where teachers are observing other teachers. And we do things that we've incorporated from Marzano, and with our high reliability schools, where we've incorporated like instructional rounds, where teachers will be able to sign up at different times to be able to go and observe. And we can usually get to see 2 teachers at a time, and then we also get to confer afterwards and be able to kind of discuss and take a look at those practices and what do we see, what's helpful. You get to kind of be able to just digest what you've been seeing and have an opportunity to talk with each other. And you can always get a hold of that teacher if you want to learn more about strategies that you've seen in their room, which is really nice.
For the informal observation, is the matter of just peers observing, and then just having some dialogue, there's no written form or?
We do keep track of it. That's a part of our IGP. So we would say like the date that we go in, and we also include like strategies that we've seen. There is a paper that we usually write on, but that's not necessarily something that's required in terms of paperwork that needs to be turned in. It's more of the dialogue that we, you get to jot down your notes and kind of what have you seen, what are things that maybe you've tried in your classroom, what have you not, what would you like to learn more about from that teacher? And then you get to have a conference afterwards with the teachers that you got to go around with. It's usually led by the instructional coach.
Yeah, this was fond memories of that. Teachers would collaborate with each other, and typically, in the instance I'm thinking of, I was going to attempt to try some process which was completely foreign to me, and it was a complete disaster. And the observing teacher and I had an interesting conversation afterwards. it was just a process that was not me. And we had a good chuckle over it afterwards.
Yeah, the instructional rounds have been a really great opportunity to be able to find that time to be able to go in and see teachers that you might not necessarily choose to go see, because it might not be on your radar in terms of you might want to go and, see someone that teaches something within your content area, but it's so important too when you get to go to someone else. For instance, on my instructional round, I got to go into orchestra, and you just sit back and you're like, that's incredible. Oh, these are, there's little nuances that you can pull and use, and you just might not have even thought about it. And so to get to see something outside of your wheelhouse is really important and beneficial.
Yeah, I think that's valuable to highlight is that peer review and the opportunity to break down those barriers and then to be isolated in your classroom versus stepping out and seeing what else is out there. And, being vulnerable enough to try new strategies. If they don't work, you at least have that authentic feedback to say, okay, what can we do differently? So it's highly valuable from different perspectives.
Yeah. And this is just kind of an idea of what an instructional coaching cycle looks like. So you would start out with your pre-conference, do your observation, be able to debrief and plan. Collaborate, teaching, debrief. The observation feedback is really important. It's nice because it's a place to be able to have that conversation with somebody who has that outside eye looking in, because there's things that you might not realize that are going on in terms of the nuances of your own teaching in a positive way, but also ways that you can grow from too. And so it's nice to be able to keep that dialogue and then be able to make goals from there. What could I do next time? Or, oh, here's what I would like to do, or here's something I could implement, and having that instructional coach and the admin both being able to get that feedback from them is so important. And so the performance pay incentive is set up the same as it has been for quite a few years now. We're at $1,300, so a building site goal, which is required by MDE, we have $150 set to that. The individual growth plan, which includes the SMART goal, that's based on student achievement, that is $50. So that's an individual SMART goal. It might be something that I choose to focus on for the year, that I want to do a deep dive in terms of like strategies, and they're all research-based strategies and elements that we use through the Marzano High Reliability Schools program. The peer reviews and the observations that we do, those ones that we had just listed before, that's $300, and then PLC attendance and the cycle work that goes on within there is $800. And it's basically broken down at $15 per PLC meeting.
The individual growth plan, who writes that? It's a little different for each individual.
The individual growth plan is something that, it's basically a template or a format that we use every year, and we do make some adjustments to it as we see needed. And we use that as a part of like our instructional coaches, myself, our learning team, when we go to make like any big changes or anything like that, but it includes those 4 critical questions that you have. And it's basically each of these areas are within there, and that's where we provide all of our data, our written SMART goals, our building goals, any reflections that we do, all of our observations get put into that one template. So it might look different in terms of my SMART goal, but the overall where I'm going to place that so that when my building principal or my instructional coach takes a look at that and gives me feedback as we're going throughout the year, it's something that I continually add to throughout the year. So we all have the same template, but it might be different in terms of what my goal is that year or what my department's working on, possibly for a focus.
Thank you for the long answer.
You're welcome. Was it too long?
I could add to it, actually. It'd be bold.
This year, so our SMART goals, individual growth plan SMART goals, 56% of our teachers met that $50, that individual SMART goal based on student achievement this year. I think that last year we were at 67, the year before that was 49. It really does fluctuate. One thing that I've noticed and feedback that I got from our instructional coaches that meet individually with each of these teachers when they are creating their SMART goals is that I really feel like they are taking chances. Like they're really wanting to dive deeper into these and make it more meaningful to them. And so we have teachers that are willing to try something new, but also want to challenge themselves. And that's something that we've been really hoping and kind of enjoying about Marzano, I would say, is it gives us something very focused. And it feels like you have sort of this, I don't know if arsenal is the right word, but I'm going to use that. Like you have this place that you can go and look, and you have all of these strategies to pull from that you already know are research-based, have been proven as best practices, and you can take a look at what is something that I want to grow in this year and really give it a shot in terms of, I really want to focus on this. And you find that you're going to have bumps and things that don't go well and other things that are really great aha moments. But it's just nice that I think our teachers are really wanting to challenge themselves in this area. I've seen that our SMART goals seem to be more challenging as we keep diving into this.
It's similar to an athlete working on technique and establishing
Yeah, definitely.
goals.
So here's our instructional model, and we have the 3 categories of feedback, content, and context. And then we have 10 design areas, and there's 43 elements within. And so for a professional growth goal, I would be able to choose a design area that I feel like I probably want to grow in, hoping that it's something that I don't necessarily want to take a strength and keep working with that. It's not that I'm going to leave that to the side, but I do want to find an area that I can grow in, and then choosing an element within there to really focus on and bring into my classroom and be purposeful with it.
I like the title, Art and Science of Teaching. There's no endeavor out there that doesn't involve both art and science. The mechanics, techniques are important, but you have to be able to put it together effectively.
Recommendations for next year, really it's just continued PD. All of our buildings are HRS Level 1 certified, and so we have been working within continuing that, but also focus on HRS Level 2, which is effective teaching in every classroom, and that's really focused on that instruction, but also starting Level 3, which is guaranteed and viable curriculum, to make sure that we are all focused on the right work and that we are aligning what it is that we're doing in our classroom to our standards and with each other. And so we're looking hopefully to have Dr. Phil Warwick come back for some continued training and also sort of introducing that Level 3. And then we would continue our peer reviews and observations and the things that I've shown you in the past slides.
And that bottom line there, $1,300 is provided by the state of Minnesota. We have, I think we're one of the first districts to be involved in this plan. And we received that stipend from the state to pay for it. And that $1,300 is not considered part of the teacher's contractual salary.
Correct.
So, I mean, and that's something that both teachers and the district are aware of. The fact that it's not a part of their contractual salary, and it's not a negotiable thing.
It's a part of, correct, there's an MOU tied to it, but it's not a part of the contractual, like, schedule.
Right.
All right, any questions?
What percentage of the staff get the full $1,300?
I just got done with all of those numbers, but I usually break it down by observations and our PLC work. I think that we are either high 80s or low 90s in terms of that. We have very few that have not completed their work, and it could be for a variety of reasons, but I think that's where I ended up. I'm trying to, I can see my big spreadsheet, but I don't have my computer with me, but yes.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, next on the agenda is a presentation by Superintendent Wagner concerning modification of our district organizational schedule.
Thank you, Chair, Directors, Community. Just wanted for coherence and transparency, it's important that I present the new organizational chart. It's been a year now since I've been blessed with this opportunity to serve Albert Lea. And in the first year, part of the 100-day plan and beyond was to really learn and listen. And as I've done a lot of assessing moving through the year, it's really looking more towards, with retirements, it's bringing our organizational chart to serve our schools back to coherence and further alignment. We know that there are some amazing staff members that are retiring that it's hard to replace. So as we move forward, what do those downlines look like? How do we support internally as a cabinet level to serve our schools? So the current the organizational chart when I first stepped in, except for the Executive Director of Career, Technology, and Innovation, which was added early this fall, essentially was Executive Director of Administrative Services, and then another unique was Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. And those were two bookends of some amazing individuals that are either retiring or maybe stepping into a little bit of a different role, but hard to replace. So thinking and moving forward, really did some assessing to further align to ensure that each individual cabinet member and executive director had a downline which was coherent, it was aligned to our mission and our goals, and it was really structured to serve our schools and our students in our community. We'll go to the next slide. So what we've transitioned to is with the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, we've renamed that Executive Director of Academics and Accountability. And essentially brought in the academic and accountability piece, the accountability being with a lot of our title grants, the multi-tiered systems of support. And then underneath each one, and it's a little challenging to see on the left there, we'll darken that before we publicize this. But essentially, there are no new positions. We just, through a transparency lens, aligned what the different individuals that would fall under the downline of Executive Director of Academics and Accountability. So the first one is, if you think of the multi-tiered systems of support, that coordinator that existed, unfortunately, that individual moved into a different position, and that's set vacant this year, which really put some stress on our ability to really support the way we needed to. So that's been filled, and we're excited to move forward with that. The Q Comp, which we just heard, the multilingual, success coaches, instructional coaches, resource specialists, and then all of that is under the downline of the Executive Director, Franks. Executive Director of Community Education, that remains static. That's Executive Director Double. Those individuals that underneath him that he leads, that downline remains constant. The Executive Director of Finance, Operations, and Safety. We brought in safety because that is one that existed but really never sat under a cabinet member. So under Executive Director Walsh, we have safety, which further aligns our safety plans, our safety coordinator, and to really move forward to ensure those plans are aligned, as well as the finance and operations. And due to retirement, we reconfigured the position underneath there to an Assistant Director of Finance, Operations, and Safety. And essentially that's broadening that role to really think, what is that, how are we building that sustainability and what does that pipeline look like? So we have to think of not only building for today, but building for tomorrow. Executive Director of Career Technology and Innovation. This is one that it's exciting, that is starting to become more clear, is moving forward in an accelerated way. So Executive Director Halverson is leading in this. This was added the fall to really bridge our work with Riverland, as well a lot of the work in our pre-K through adult opportunities for our students. You see Executive Director of Special Education Special Services, that remains static as well. We just further identified who was in that downline. Executive Director of Human Resources. So this was one that we really was more defined even more. It's really when you think of the work of the HR, this is the HR component, and we're excited to have Executive Director Mattson step into this role. It's a huge void, but we're excited the direction of further aligning the human resources. Many individuals in the office did a lot of work. Kathy led some, her hat was many hats that she wore under this, but this further aligns the retention and retainment. And we added, this is the only cabinet member, we added a new position, and that was an office, that is administrative assistant, or hang on here, that is a resource specialist, an HR generalist, thank you. So that is really to further serve underneath Ashley Mattson to really focus on retention and as well as recruitment. And then we have the building administrators, that stays static. Up above, we have the Coordinator of Organizational Compliance. This is a contracted position to really focus on our contracts, our data request, and some of the other projects that may be further defined. And then we have the Executive Administrative Assistant. That remains the same position that currently exists. So this is the proposed, or the moving forward, our new organizational chart. It's not any additional positions to the cabinet level. It's just redefining and bringing us to coherence and further alignment to serve our schools. Any questions?
That's a lot.
Yes.
Just to make sure I have a grasp of this, we did consolidate with facilities, didn't we, into one position? Was that a reduction in staffing overall, or no?
No, that was when we had a kind of the facilities coordinator due to retirement. What we've done, we broadened that position to serve as an assistant director to Executive Director Walsh to really build that coherence in that pipeline. So we've kind of brought it up and funneled it up to a little bit more of an expansive role. So we didn't eliminate it, we just expanded it.
You know, I'm glad we do this, but look, we've done a lot of internal promotion, which I think is a good thing. We have a lot of talented people and we've given them an opportunity. Is succession planning within the scope of the HR generalist then, or is that part of our mindset when it comes to HR?
So when we think of HR, the HR generalist, that's new. So that's really to support the work. I call it, there's the 30,000 feet and the 10,000 feet. And it's that 10,000 feet to work with kind of that recruitment, that retention piece, and to really serve Executive Director Mattson so she can work more broadly. And this is more of a kind of a linear laser focus to support some of those aspects that you'll see as, you know, as we really work to retain as well as recruit new talent. There's many factors that go into that. And there were many in the office that were doing a lot of these roles. It's just further aligning that. And then the office assistant is more as a secretarial position, as you think of that as you walk into a school, if you will, the secretarial piece, more of a broader support for the general office as well as welcoming families when they come in.
Would this model start with a 23-24 school year?
Yes.
That's kind of result, a combination of people retiring and molding the positions to accommodate the people that we have available in-house to fill those, and tidying things up a bit according to your perception.
Yes, and historical knowledge is hard to replace. So that is one that, as we look to really strengthen our cabinet to serve our schools, relying on the historical knowledge, but also then building that pipeline so it's not dependent on one person retiring and then all that knowledge leaves.
Thank you for putting this together. Will we get this emailed to us?
Absolutely, and this will be public as well. And this is to really post, and formally it was just kind of high level, but I wanted to ensure that we're transparent on the downlines. And these are not new individuals, it's just disclosing who falls under each cabinet member. Any further questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Looks good. I've had the happiness of seeing this before, but now the rest of you can feast your eyes. It's a daunting task to organize the personnel that you have to make sure that every base is covered, a lot of bases out there. And it's a work in progress too. I'm sure that probably this will be tweaked somewhat as time goes by.
Absolutely.
All right, that takes care of 5.2. Item 6, closed session. We have an issue relating to labor negotiations. We need a motion to go into closed session.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Gary. Seconded by Davy. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? We are in, or we will be in closed session.